I've heard before and I've been taught that like the man is the head of the house, but like the wife is the neck. And like the neck literally is like a muscle of support. It functions support. It also functions the direction in which someone's looking. And I feel that you're always supporting me and always assisting me to like redirect my focus whenever my focus like gets off. And that focus is always centered on Christ. Yo, what's good? This is the Mo Mowry Podcast. I'm Tabor Mowry.
I'm Sandy Mowry.
So grateful for you to be here. Today, we're going to be talking about
Support.
Support is so important. Support is, foundational. A foundation without support, or should I say it's built on top of a foundation?
Support is built on top of the foundation of what?
A relationship. It's like
it's built into the foundation of a relationship.
That's a good way of putting it. It's built into the foundation of a relationship in which I am supportive of you and you are supportive of me, and that helps us to continue to fortify our relationship. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Everything from career things to parenting and even just like the development of humans as time progresses.
Yeah. What?
I know that's like a strange phrasing.
Are you talking about trial?
No, but I'm saying also like when I was thinking about that, I was thinking of the analogy of how, when a sculptor has, a slab of marble, they themselves can already see the sculpture that they're going to sculpt before a tool has even touched the marble. And in my opinion, that's the way in which God sees us. Yeah. He already sees it completely.
Right.
But as you walk with someone in real time, like you being my wife, like you're witnessing that transformation process of who he already sees, but I'm walking and turning into that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you're experiencing that in real time.
Yeah.
And that takes support.
Yeah.
Because that process isn't always pretty.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But the support takes it to the next level.
Yeah, like it makes it possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What would you say is the earliest? We're kind of like not spitballing, but unfolding this topic with you guys.
Yeah. We just chilling. We hanging out.
Always. You know what I mean? But I called my mom right before this and was like, Mom, what should we talk about? Because she has watched our relationship since the beginning of it.
Yeah.
And she was like, talk about support. How do you support? And I was thinking about like the earliest points of our relationship. And I'm like, was it easier then or now to support me?
Me support
and I have
you?
an answer, yeah.
I feel like it was easy then and it's easier now. For me personally. To support you. Do you feel like that's real or not?
For you?
Yeah. Me supporting you.
No, your answer is your answer.
I'm trying to see what
No, you finish your answer.
That's how I feel. I feel that when it comes to any desire that you voiced, any dream that you expressed, I've never been the one to get in the way of that, and have always been like really all down for it and been like, go do that thing when it is when it is in reason. You know what I mean?
No.
What's an example?
When it's
of
in
this?
your definition of reason.
Well, like, are we talking about like going on a 52-year tour and then coming back home and being like, I did the thing, and it's like, babe, I'm 62.
see, this is so dramatic. What I'm saying, let's give the people the real. You know what I mean?
No, let's give them some context.
I think that. You keep answering. So it's just been smooth sailing, so easy to support.
No, it's not smooth sailing.
Then and now, just easy to support.
It's in the grand scheme. In the grand scheme, it is easy because I love you, You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
In the day-to-day, it gets difficult, but that's not to say that, like, the overall experience is one that is of difficulty or it's like a laboring thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like it's laborsome to me.
Yeah. Want me to answer? I think it was easy. It was easier to support you when we first started dating.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just explain as I go. Because I didn't know as much, and there was not as much at risk.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So the nuances of support can feel more difficult to me in marriage than it did in dating because of the weight of what we're navigating.
Mm-hmm.
So like jobs. When we were dating, it was like, yeah, whatever, you do you kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now in marriage, this is hypothetical, but it's like it affects us as a family.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I think the weight of that support does feel more weighty than it did when we were dating. Maybe I'll say it like that.
Weighty, but not necessarily difficult.
No, but I do think the weight makes moving more difficult sometimes. Does that make sense?
Moving what?
Like if I was going uphill by myself
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like trotting, I'm like, hey, cool, this is cool. And then I put on a weight, it's like it becomes more difficult by design. Does that make sense?
I'm not really following you, but I'm with you. I'm supporting you.
I'm saying that I don't think it is smooth sailing. I'll say it that way.
No, there's
like
choppy
easy
water.
to me sometimes equals smooth sailing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, that was easy. If I said something was easy, it would be like without effort to me. Like, oh, I kind of did that. It was pretty easy to me. So I'm saying the support piece doesn't feel easy.
We definitely have crazy range in our definitions of things.
What's easy for you?
I feel like difficult is like I almost died doing this thing, and everything else is just like easy.
That is crazy.
Which is what now that you like break it down like that, because there's for sure choppy water on the seas, and I'm like,
so.
Dang,
But when you say
crazy.
We had a difficult conversation,
Uh-huh.
that you feel it at that level of intensity.
If we had a difficult conversation,
like I've heard you say things like, yeah, it was a difficult conversation.
Uh-huh.
And is that the intensity that you feel it?
No.
Oh,
it's still like easy.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
You know what I mean?
So none of your words, they're interchangeable.
No, what I'm saying is like, when I'm considering something difficult,
yeah,
I am saying, not like that was a kind of hard conversation to have.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm saying difficult, I'm like, hey, I don't know if I'm gonna make it through this.
Got you.
You know what I mean? Like, where like tapping out starts to like rise itself and be like, oh, this may be an option. I've never experienced that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Which is why I'm like, oh, it's been easy, because I've never been like, hey, bro, like, I don't know if I can handle this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And easy to me is without effort. Like, I kind of did it with my eyes closed. It was very easy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a definition thing.
Mm-hmm. So that's why I say supporting is not without effort.
Facts. Oh, no, it
That's
absolutely takes effort.
Yeah.
Yes. And perseverance, patience, understanding, long suffering, all that kind of stuff.
Totally.
A lot of fruits.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
Fruits of the spirit.
So talking about the season when I was on the road, to give context.
Yeah, let's do that.
We got married in 2020. And then, well, I'll back up even more and say Tavia moved in January of 2020 from California to Nashville. And then we had been dating for 2 years prior to that.
Like two.
Long distance. And so then when he got here, I went on like a 2-week run. And I had been touring this whole time, but because of the distance, he never really felt it like that.
No.
So that was my first time going out of town and him being in Nashville. So I went on like a 2-week run. And then we had a little bit of a...
That wasn't cool. That wasn't easy.
A little bit of a confrontation. Yeah. Friction around it.
We need some friction.
But then we kind of worked through it. But then the world shut down. So that was the only time that I had toured from when we were dating in the same state to being married. So then that was, I want to say, January of 2020 when I went out of town, came back. world shut down. All of my shows got canceled that year. So then we get married in September. And then I don't go on the road again until the following fall.
21. Fall
of
21.
So from January 2020 to fall of 21, I was in town that whole time. So it kind of created a great pace between us, but also a false one because that's not the nature of my job for real. And all of my touring prior to that, like I said, had been done long distance. So we had no rhythm of me being in and out of town. So fast forward to fall of 21, we went from me being home nonstop to
gone for 10 weeks straight.
Yeah, gone for 10 weeks. So I did an 8-week tour and then home for like less than 24 hours and then did a cruise, which is like a music festival on a boat.
2 weeks.
For 2 weeks, yeah. I remember, thank you.
I just gotta nail these dates down. So and a cruise, mind you, is like, you can't really text nobody because you're on a boat. You know what I'm saying? Unless you pull in the port. So that's on top of...
Yeah, on top of the distance.
Yeah.
Now, for me, I was fine. Like, I was like... And he came out a couple times during that time, right?
Yeah, our anniversary.
Philly, yeah. Montana. There was like 2 or 3 times that he would come out and like spend the weekend with us and then fly home. So it wasn't like we didn't see each other for 10 weeks.
Yeah. But it was definitely like, if I was out with you, it was maybe like 4 to 5-ish days out of the 10 weeks.
Yeah. So it was a stark kind of 0 to 1,000 when it came to... Now, my pace felt the same because I was used to, before I married him, I lived with my parents. So I was used to being with my nucleus, you know what I mean? And then leaving and then coming back. And I've been touring since I was like around 11. So I'm very used to that pace. Tave was less used to the pace.
Super. Not at all. I'm like, hey, I moved all the way to Nashville. We living together. This is dope. We married. I like this. And now it's like, I'm a bachelor. Like, out here eating pizza for breakfast. Like, playing video games whenever. Like, crazy.
Yeah. So, our communication kind of slowly but surely took a dive. Because I'm thinking, this is the good life. You know what I mean? I'm married now, and I still get to do what I love to do. You know what I mean? Like, he's happy, I'm happy. Because this whole time, he's communicating, you know, like, so proud of you, do your thing, like, miss you, but love that you're happy, do your thing. Internally, it was a bit more...
Yeah, it was like, I think I was trying to be super husband, like, Superman offshoot of being like, of course I support you, but in that support I was like I was denying myself of how I actually felt, my own wants, needs, and desires. And I was just like, all right, well, like, maybe I could just
muscle through it,
grind my teeth and like clench my hands and muscle through it until she comes back. But like, yo, 10 weeks is a long time. And like, that's a whole season.
It started to wear on our connection, obviously. So when I was on the road, and even when he would come out on the road, it's funny now to me. Maybe not to you, I don't know. But it's funny in hindsight watching us try to navigate it, because we would try to be like normal.
Yeah.
And
but
like,
then it would be like, nah.
And you essentially didn't really like me like that.
No.
Like the feeling of being with me temporarily.
I think it was just like really triggering on past experiences of like having someone be in your life and then them being removed from your life and then having them be in your life and then removed from your life. It was like a very destabilizing time. Yeah. And in that instability, I found that without you there, it was stable. And the destabilizing was when you would come in, or if I would come and see you, because now it's like, oh, dang, like, you do something for 6 weeks. Like, it takes 21 days to build a habit. That's 2 sets of 21. 6 weeks. So it's like, oh, I got my own rhythm. I got my own life. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's what really started to happen was like this separation of like, I have my life, you have your life, but not like the union of what it is to be married. Right. I think that was like the triggering point of like the distance.
I still don't agree with the union part.
What do you mean?
I think we've always disagreed on that part. Because at the time you were like, this is opposing what the structure of marriage does, which is bring two people and make them as one. And so the nature of being gone is almost the opposite of that.
I feel like in a physical sense that's the case, but I'm saying more so what was happening like relationally from the physical was like counter of like the union, because it was more so like,
oh, I see.
You follow what I'm saying? Because
of how you were dealing with things and how I was dealing with things. Yeah. Anyway, I brought that situation up to say that season, because though it started with me leaving on the road, it lasted months after I got home.
Yeah, for sure.
Like kind of rebuilding trust in some ways. And then also just vulnerability and honesty and like getting to what the heart of the matter. I brought that up to talk about what support looked like in that season, because on the surface, to the people who I was touring with, to whoever, it looked like, man, they're supporting each other great. Like, and we were to the best of our ability. Yeah. Like, it was like, you thought I need to just not say anything and then let her do whatever, and is that supportive?
Right.
And I was like, I guess I just need to let him feel how he feels and do my thing, because that's supportive. But support that is without vulnerability isn't really support at all. Like, if you kind of have to like not say anything and be like, I'll just take it. Like, I feel some kind of way, but I'll take it so that I can support you.
Yeah.
Ends up actually putting a crack in the foundation.
Facts.
Versus stabilizing it.
Yeah.
And so we had to learn, like, how do we actually bring our full selves to the table in communication so that we can support each other in a way that'll last and not hide behind maybe a smile or like what we think the other person wants to hear.
Yeah.
In order to just look supportive.
Facts.
And I think for me, I had to learn that you're allowed to feel like you, meaning Tavia, you were allowed to feel like I had to understand that you didn't like the nature of my job. The fact that it takes me away.
Yeah.
But that does not mean you don't support what I do.
Facts.
But in my head, I'm like, if you don't like that I leave, then you don't like the job. Therefore, you don't want me to.
Also, like, when we say 0 to 100, this was 0 to 100. It was like, this was the first time you went out after we were married, and it was a 10-week run. That, like, we didn't have an opportunity to be like, oh, I'm gonna be gone for a week, I'm gonna be gone for 2 weeks. It's like, nah, like, I'm about to be gone like a whole semester. You know what I mean? And I think that, like, judging my relationship with your work based off of like a very intense and extreme example of that isn't necessarily accurate. Because, like, take for example, you go out with Ellie, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not like, when are you going home? No. I'm like, oh, cool. Like, I want my wife to be with me. But it's also not like, man, like, what am I doing right now? It's just like, oh, like, go ahead, do your thing. Like,
that's also a testament to how much you've grown, though. Right.
I agree. But I'm also saying, when you're able to see a finish line on the horizon rather than, like, scrolling through a calendar a couple, like, months, it hits different.
Totally.
I was just defending past Tavia.
No, I don't think past Tavia, other than the vulnerability thing, I don't think you felt anything wrong.
Right, or more so like justifying the situation and like the reality of the situation as far as like this was a long time.
And we both committed to that because it wasn't like I was like, I'm leaving. You know what I mean? I said, hey, these are the dates, and you're like, okay, cool opportunity, go for it. Yeah. So we both kind of blindly said yes to this thing, not counting the cost at all of how that would feel relationally. Nope. Again, because neither of us had done it. Like, we were long distance in all of my touring days. And we thought support looked like saying yes to what the other person wanted.
And it does sometimes.
Sometimes, but that's not the definition of support.
Facts.
And sometimes I think in your world, even to today, like when you're navigating, like, okay, I feel like I'm supposed to be here, but I don't want to be. In my heart or in my head, I'm kind of like, is a supportive wife thing mean to say yes? Like, yeah, don't do that. You don't want to. Don't do it. You know what I mean? Or is it to challenge a narrative? Is it more supportive to say, like, no, like, I actually think you need to stay where you're at or leave where you're at, even though you don't want to. And ultimately, our perfect picture is Jesus. And, like, how he leads us and guides us in all truth through the Holy Spirit is, like, the most supportive thing you could do. Because he sees the ultimate finish line and goes, this is how I can support you best to getting where you're going, is telling you yes to this, no to that, yes to this, no to that. And so in our lives and in our marriage, support looks very similar. And I'm a person who likes rules and likes outcomes. So I'm like, give me the math. 1 + 1 is 2. Support means yes. So yeah, okay, I'll tell you yes all the time. But I'm finding that it is a pace and listening and responding. And so, like, even in parenting, like, supporting means leaning in and pulling back. It just depends on the situation you're in. Like, more recently, when Triumph was really little, Tay felt more
super green.
Yeah, super green, and was like not confident in like knowing how to do the day-to-day things. And I had been babysitting my whole life, so the baby part became more easy to me because I was like, oh, I've done this a lot of time. But the parenting part, though I do know it starts at the beginning, like now that he's older, the attitude and the tantrums and making sure he's saying thank you and all of that, we're both on the same learning curve when it comes to that. But more recently, I had a show out of town, and I was trying to juggle, like, do I take Triumph with me? And Tabor had communicated before, like, I don't necessarily feel comfortable being at home. This is months ago, so in my head, that was always the narrative. But then when we
don't necessarily feel comfortable being at home with Tri.
Yeah, like overnight and things like that, just because of the rhythm. But that was an old thing that you had told me, and I just never revisited it. But then when I was like, hey, I need to go out of town to play these shows, how do you feel about keeping him? You were like, yeah, for sure. And I was like, oh, wow. But I was nervous, not because of your ability, but I was just like, he's never done this before. Like, they've never been without me. Like, how is this going to go? But in order for Tave to support me well and doing what I'm supposed to do or called to do for that weekend, and me to support him well and being the parent that I know he is, we had to, for him, lean in to try, and I had to pull back. You know what I mean? And, like, do less. And I think back when we were in the situation where we were talking about the 10-week tour and all of that, if somebody had written out, like, this is what support looks like, then I would have been like, that's not true. Like, I'm just supposed to say, your life is harder with Tri or more difficult. I'm going to take them because that's the supportive thing to do. Rather than looking at the situation and be like, what is support in this specific situation, leading with vulnerability, and then like headed towards a good outcome, hopefully. But when you're navigating through those situations, it's sometimes hard to not let emotion lead and call it support. At least to me.
I feel it. I think that support is a choice, as are like many things, obviously.
Most things, yeah.
And it starts with having an understanding of where you stand and how do you support that person. I know you love playing guitar. I know you would want to be 75 still playing guitar solos on stage. You know what I mean? And a part of me being a good husband is still like honoring your desires and dreams and supporting you in an honest way so that you can still chase after your passion, but also being honest in a way of being like, this may not be the best thing for our family in this particular circumstance or instance. Because it's like, I'm just trying to think of like an example.
Well, doing like the same 10 weeks now that we have a kid could never happen.
That would be terrible. Trying to be like, yo, who are you?
Or to either one.
Yeah.
If I was like, I'm going to leave him with you for 10 weeks. Or if I was going to take him for 10 weeks. It just doesn't make sense.
Facts. It's a seasonal thing.
But you said following your passions. Do you know that you're a passion of mine?
Tell me more.
Answer the question.
Nah, I didn't. Or like, I've never heard you phrase it that way. I like that though.
Do you believe it though?
I do. I do believe it. I think it's passions grow. Passions are literally like passions in terms of something that is like a object or activity, not necessarily like a feeling inside you. I feel like they're like little embers and little flames that can grow to be raging fires so long as you like
tend to it.
Yes, exactly. They're like plants. It's like, you know what I mean? So I can see that.
You never really, I think, in the context of support.
Answered it.
You answered it. I'm just curious if you believe it. Because I would like for you to think about the fact that you said you always want to support me in like the passions that I have and make the best decision for the family. And do you think of yourself as positioning me to support you well ever? Or does that feel like self-centered or anything?
I feel like as a husband, my duty as a husband pertaining to you, my wife, is to make sure that I can position you to be as successful as possible. In whatever you want to do. Because I believe that you're doing the same for me.
Why would you say believe it's going like that?
Because I don't want to make an assumption.
Okay.
Not like on some like passive aggressive.
Stop the camera.
Nah, like it's like, okay, I don't have to necessarily focus on securing myself or like making sure that I'm getting myself because I know that you got me.
You feel that way right now?
Yeah. Like in the general sense, maybe there is like some like callous skin around that notion, but my heart believes that.
Yeah.
So I think that's why like I don't consider it for myself. I consider it for you. And the same for like our child, you know what I mean? And any other child that may come in the future. It's just like me wanting to make sure that everyone that I love is in the best position to be successful. And in any way, shape, or form that I can be of service, like that's my desire.
How do you feel that I support you?
Shoot, you be making me like make my head
What?
focused. Okay. Do y'all hear this, yo?
What do you mean? I didn't say anything.
You said what?
Because you just went into a whole different world.
That's not what I'm talking about
Okay.
at all. See, you're wild, yo. I've heard before, and I've been taught that like the man is the head of the house, but like the wife is the neck, and like the neck literally is like a muscle of support. It functions support. It also functions the direction in which someone's looking, and I feel that you're always supporting me and always assisting me to like redirect my focus whenever my focus like gets off. And that focus is always centered on Christ. It's like behold his face, pick your head up, not in like man, get your head up, but like nah, like I know who you are, and you're always reaffirming the things that God has told you about me, even when I don't see it myself.
Right.
And that's how I know I'm supported by you, and I'm loved by you, and I'm seen by you. So that for me goes further than anything else, because that is love. It's selfless. There's no self-interest in that. There's no manipulation in that, no room for manipulation. It's nothing but just the purity of your heart and your desire of loving me unconditionally, even when I'm out of pocket, which is very rare. Even through all that shenanigans and all, it's like, nah, that's not going to get in the way of me championing the man that you love, you know what I'm saying? And the man that I am, and explicitly sharing that with me. I feel seen and I feel loved.
Good. I think that is one way that I/a lot of women probably have done and can continue to do well in is like verbal support. Sometimes that can be like acts of service, kind of like I'll just clean the house or I'll make sure so that he can do his work. And you don't notice stuff like that as much as you notice me being like, thank you for going to work today and coming home and getting up early. Like, I really appreciate you and support whatever you want to do. Like, that I've learned goes way further than me making the bed.
It might be a pink and blue thing. I do appreciate
making the bed.
Dude. Even though you try and like make up the bed behind me because it's not up to your standards.
You don't make the bed well. We both know that. We both know that, and that's not even the point of this. We're not going to go there. You saw the bed was made today, huh?
It was
and
crispy.
You were like, wow.
It was beautiful.
And you're able to do that.
Not like that. You got to touch.
But I'm saying that.
Like on Mario.
You don't even try no more.
You remember that song?
No.
You never heard that song?
Sheltered, homeschooled. Like, what year was that?
Gotta say like 2004.
Yeah, so definitely not listening.
Ashley probably for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Ask Ashley. But like verbal support goes such a long way in whatever category, whether that be parenting, work, marriage. Like, hey, you're a great husband. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of what I assumed was a given for both of us, you actually didn't like know about. So when I was like, do you know that I think, do you know that you're a passion of mine?
Oh,
and you're like, I've never heard it said like that. I'm like, I assumed you just knew that. You know what I mean?
What they say about assumptions.
What?
They make an ass out of you and me. Shout out to
kill you.
Shout out to Coach, put me on. Coach, be right.
Yeah, so like I had to learn for you, like you got to hear it. Because I could be feeling one way, but without articulating it, it's just in my world. So like kind of communicating support to you is not just doing the action, but saying like, hey, I support you in this, like go change the world. Like I think you can do it. That puts more gas in your tank than I ever knew. for a long time.
Facts.
I was just like, he knows I think I can do it. Why else would I marry him? Like, a lot is just, like, implied in my head. Like, obviously, I wanted to marry a man that did this, this, and this. I married him, so he knows he did this, this, and this. You know what I mean? And that's just not true.
That's real rap.
Yeah. So.
Thanks for saying that again, though.
You're welcome. It's just funny that it feels so shocking to you.
I feel like it's a whatchamacallit thing. Perspective.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like you do support me. I'm thinking of another kind of thought, but like you're saying, by giving me room to be me and then fanning the flames in the areas that I like kind of overlook. So when it comes to like guitar lessons and like recording them and putting out lessons and stuff, you saw that years before I did. And I was very much like, sure, I mean, maybe one day. It's not really something I'm trying to do. But you didn't go, well, we're doing it now because we need to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You were like, your support in that was patient. And you're like, I'm down to stay steady in an area and stay sure about what I see, even if I have to wait it out. Which is funny because with you don't have the same steadiness.
I think maybe because, like...
Is steadiness a word?
I think so.
Okay.
Maybe. Whatever.
Yeah.
It's 2024. You can make up whatever
no,
word
I don't.
you want.
We shouldn't make up our words.
You can, though. What?
You can, but we should. Like, if steadiness isn't a word.
Nah, we turning it up. Yup. I'm going to have my own dictionary.
Just to have a conversation with you, I'm going to have to be like...
That's a crazy coffee table book. I'm going to make one day.
Okay.
Copy it when it comes out. One day. If you want to.
Oh my gosh.
Like I was saying, I feel like it's the perspective thing because I can see you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, it's like right there. Oh, she doesn't want to like really tap into that right now. It's all right. Like whenever she like clicks on and she's like, oh, like let's do it. I'm like, okay, cool.
Right.
I think for me, maybe I get a little, not maybe. I for sure get lost in the sauce of the emotions of something that I wouldn't necessarily say I bail on myself, but the furnace gets hot and I'm like, yo, I gotta get out of here. And I just feel like I've been cooking for a long time. And maybe that's why I'm just like, I get tired.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think maybe I was thinking about this as you were talking and how it's easy for you to see something and be like, yeah, it is what it is. And then in the same way, I can see you and be like, yeah, I mean, it's just a season. And I think supporting each other, the ease, which you were talking about earlier, does come from a place of like seeing who we are in the spirit and like seeing who you actually are and then like not letting exterior things really affect that. Yeah. And so, or even sometimes not by choice, I'm not letting that change my view of him. I literally just see you that way. So when you're like, I don't know, you're kind of like back and forth, I'm like, I don't see you this way. You know what I mean? If anything, I'm like, I'll just let his emotions die down because I can still see who you are. And that's the person I'm supporting.
Are you talking about like the conversation earlier today?
For sure. Well, I wasn't thinking about that, but that's an example.
Was I on like a different vibe?
Yeah. What do you weren't on a different vibe. That's kind of what I was saying. I was like, it's pretty much two versions. You're either who I see all the time, or you're in that headspace.
I don't want to be in that headspace. It gets hard though.
Yeah.
Sometimes that headspace, being in that headspace, makes this person stronger. From the revelation of being like, dang, I was there, like I need to be not there. And I know this is so ambiguous for y'all watching.
I kind of disagree, but I see where you're coming from.
Well, if you disagree, I agree with
What?
you.
Okay. But anyway, ultimately, what you said earlier, support is a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thankful that my support of you comes from a lens, the truest lens to me, which is God.
Word.
Where I can see you and realize, like, this, I know, even though we're first time parents together, I can see what he's capable of. Mm-hmm. Therefore, it's easy for me to support you and be like, no, you can change his diaper. Or no, you can do it overnight. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like, I'm really just choosing to support you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or, yeah, you can be huge in music. Mm-hmm. Or you can do something else. Write scripts. Like, sure. You know what I mean? Like, mm-hmm. I just believe in you. So it makes it easy to support, even when it's not easy to support.
Yeah. You like that? What?
Nothing. I hope that makes sense. We were kind of all over the place.
We were really all over the place.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I look back at these, I'd be like, oh, this makes sense. There's like a through line.
Yeah.
But in the moment, we're really chopping it up right now. Like, this isn't... I guess that's most podcasts. People just talking.
Yeah. I think because our heart is for people to glean something.
Facts. That
it feels a little bit more like, not pressure, but like intention. The intention is like, I hope somebody can get something from this.
Facts.
So it's always super encouraging when people get to the end, or even like the clips that we post and they're like, this is awesome. Or they have thoughts, agreeing or disagreeing. And they're like, hey, I think this, or I don't think this.
What? I was just laughing at your typing fingers.
Because at least if for nothing else, you don't have to agree with anything, but I do hope it sparks some sort of conversation.
Yeah. Between
you and whoever you're with, or a friend, or whatever. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Well, we love y'all. Please like and subscribe. It really does the most for us. It helps the videos go further, go wider. Please share this with whoever you love that you feel would benefit from this. I'm Taylor Mowry.
I'm Taylor Mowry.
This is a Mo Mowry Podcast. Peace.